We are told our character is a mystery, a deep forest that requires years of therapy to navigate. This is a comforting lie. Your entire character, your true psychological architecture, is revealed not in grand declarations, but in the single, small choice you just made. Here is the bold, testable claim. The ancient discipline of Stoicism provides a map to dismantle the architecture of your self-deception, revealing not what you wish you were, but the specific, quiet hunger that drives every decision you make. By the end of our time, you will possess a portable mental technique, an inner question you can carry with you, that immediately distinguishes a productive struggle from a self-inflicted torment. But first, let us consider the simple object you selected. This is not a test of style or comfort, but a swift, surgical inquiry into your ruling faculty, that Stoic core Epictetus called prohairesis, your power of choice. Carl Jung, in a later age, recognized that the smallest symbol is a whisper from the unconscious. But the Stoics knew this 2,000 years earlier. They understood that every choice, every preference, is a statement about what you believe you need for a good life. If that need is misplaced, all your energy will be misspent. Now, before we proceed, I must be clear. This conversation is one of philosophical reflection and education. It is not a substitute for the counsel of qualified professionals, nor is it a prescription for your individual life. Use these ideas to provoke reflection and consult experts for personal, medical, or legal decisions. Your choice of a simple chair, a temporary resting place, is a metaphor for the sanctuary you seek when the world presses in. The ancient Stoics knew we all build such a sanctuary. Marcus Aurelius spoke of retreating not to a physical place, but to the inner fortress of the mind. The nature of the chair you chose indicates the flaw in the fortress you have unconsciously erected. Let us begin with the individual who was drawn to chair one, the observer's refuge, the simple, minimal lines, the quiet sense of calm. In plain English, you crave stillness. You seek a boundary against the incessant noise of the world. You are drawn to the tranquility of your own company, finding clarity in solitude. The inner life is rich, perhaps overcomplicated, and the simple exterior of the chair reflects a need for your outer world to compensate for the exhausting complexity within. The Stoic perspective views this not as a virtue of quiet reflection, but as a potential avoidance of the necessary burden of humanity. You seek clarity, which is good, but you risk making distance the very shield you hide behind. The nuance here is crucial. Solitude is the philosopher's training ground. Isolation is the soul's prison. When stillness is used to avoid the pain of human connection, the fortress becomes a solitary confinement cell. Your true Stoic work is not simply observing the chaos, but learning to act with tranquility within it, without needing to flee. The observer must learn to translate internal clarity into external compassionate action, understanding that true peace is not the absence of noise, but the mastery of one's response to the noise. Next, consider chair two, the guardian of structure, sturdy, symmetrical, classically built, a preference for the proven, the reliable, the orderly. The plain message is that you are grounded and value order above all else. Structure is your anchor, providing the necessary framework for a meaningful life. This is the virtue of prudence, the Stoic commitment to establishing principles that prevent rash, unexamined action. However, the nuance is this. While order is an aid to virtue, Rigidity is a denial of reality. Seneca wrote extensively on the inevitable flux of events, the pantarei of Heraclitus. Everything flows. The world is defined by its constant radical change. If your safety is vested in the maintenance of a perfect structure, you are setting yourself up for guaranteed suffering. Your preference for order hints at an underlying anxiety about unpredictability, a fear that if the framework cracks, you too will shatter. The path forward is to embrace the dichotomy of control, to exert your effort on establishing your principles, which are internal, but release your demand on outcomes, which are external. You are the architect of your soul, but the landscape upon which you build is owned by fate. Then we confront Chair 3, the throne of the inner king. Luxurious, padded, dignified, it calls for a place of importance and inner validation. At its most straightforward, this choice signals a hunger for autonomy, recognition, and rest. This is the person whose prohairesis is currently bent towards establishing mastery over others, over circumstances, and over their own appearance of competence. The Stoics understood the lure of the throne perfectly. They knew that power is a mere indifferent, neither good nor bad in itself, but a dangerous amplifier of existing vice or virtue. The nuance is that this desire for the throne is often a mask for unhealed wounds. If you were unseen or unheard in the past, you now seek visibility through the weight of command. The true challenge of the inner king is not establishing control, but surrendering it where it does not belong. The Stoic ruler knows they are a temporary administrator of their office and their life. The deepest peace for this archetype lies in realizing that true worth is not derived from the role, the throne, but from the integrity of the essence, the choice-making faculty that remains pure regardless of whether you rule an empire or a prison cell. Your real work is to find rest without relinquishing your dignity, allowing yourself to be cared for without sacrificing your self-respect. The individual drawn to Chair 4, the voice of the inner child, selected the colorful, bold object that refuses to blend in. The plain meaning is a yearning for expression, freedom, and emotional truth. You feel things intensely, seeing the world with an emotional vibrancy that others dismiss as impractical. The Stoics would recognize this as a potent raw energy, the desire for a life fully aligned with nature, free of the stifling constraints of convention. But here is the critical nuance. Expression without discipline is mere reaction. The inner child often mistakes its impulses for its essence. Your bold exterior, your voice, may actually function as a sophisticated defense mechanism, a bright, distracting pattern of behavior worn to obscure a vulnerability or an internal pain you are unwilling to confront. The work for you is to channel that vibrant energy through the Stoic virtues: justice, temperance, courage, and wisdom. True freedom is not the absence of rules. It is the voluntary imposition of the right rules upon oneself. Your soul craves freedom, but your current practice is only achieving temporary spontaneity. Freedom lies in the rigorous self-mastery that ensures your actions are virtuous, not merely colorful. Finally, we turn to Chair 5, the fortress of the warrior, simple, raw, resilient, a mix of metal and wood that offers strength, not comfort. The straightforward reading is that you are fiercely independent and value resilience. You have faced adversity, and you trust only the strength you have forged in your own furnace. This aligns well with the Stoic ideal of the self-sufficient sage, capable of enduring the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune without complaint. Yet, even the great Seneca wrote about the importance of friendship and connection. The warrior's strength is a magnificent shield, but the profound nuance is that a shield can separate you from what you need. You may have internalized a belief that vulnerability is weakness, a dangerous judgment born from having to grow up too quickly, too alone. The fortress you built to guard your inner life may have become a prison that isolates your pain. The warrior's work is not to gain more strength, but to determine when that strength can be allowed to rest, when the defenses can be lowered for an ally, and when the fierce discipline can be softened by a quiet acceptance of aid. The greatest courage is not to fight the world, but to gently accept its inevitable, necessary supports. Now, let us bring these personal architectures into the light of lived practice. We often believe Stoicism is about being an emotional statue, a misconception that makes it useless in the actual tumult of daily life. The first principle of Stoic practice is always the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, and most things are not. Our opinions, our intentions, our efforts, these are ours. The weather, other people's opinions, the market, the past, these are externals. This is the plain English lesson. Focus your attention only where you have true power. But here is the nuance we need, the philosophical gravity. The Stoic word for the event itself is fantasia, the sensory impression. What is up to us is the assent we give to that impression, our judgment. An event, a fantasia, is merely wood floating in the water. Your judgment is the fire you bring to that wood. The Stoic life is the disciplined refusal to burn the wood with an unexamined, impulsive judgment. We see this tragic omission play out daily. Consider the story of the preventable downfall, a preventable downfall I've watched happen countless times in modern commerce. Call him Victor. Victor was drawn to chair 2, the guardian of structure. He was a brilliant young engineer who believed that a perfect methodology could guarantee a perfect outcome. His focus was surgically clear, his standards unbending. His downfall was not a dramatic ethical collapse, but a slow, quiet erosion of agency rooted in a misplaced judgment. Victor worked on a massive project with a flawed executive team. He saw the structural flaws in their plan, the fantasia, and judged them as a moral failure he was responsible for fixing. He worked 18-hour days, not on his engineering, but on trying to control the executive team's poor decisions. He mistook his effort for the power of control. He began to sacrifice his sleep, his family, and his integrity to a futile task. He forgot the subtle wisdom. You have control over your effort, an internal, but zero control over a superior's irrationality, an external. When the project inevitably collapsed, Victor was destroyed. Not because he failed as an engineer, but because he gave his inner citadel, his prohoresis, to an external power he could not command. His relentless focus on fixing the world's structure caused his inner architecture to crumble. He sought stability in the wrong place. His lesson and ours is simple. Distinguish where you have influence from where you demand control. This is not easy. It requires constant training, what the Stoics called ascesis. We must seek out voluntary discomfort to build resilience. You cannot learn to steer a ship in a storm if you have never practiced against a strong breeze. We must choose to stand in the cold Choose to forego a pleasure. Choose to take on a difficult conversation, not for the discomfort itself, but for the development of the psychological muscle that says, I can choose my response regardless of circumstance. The great turning point, the delayed awakening, often only comes when fate delivers a blow that strips away our self-deception. I recall a woman, let us call her Elara, who perfectly embodied the fortress of the warrior, Chair 5. Elara was a successful trial lawyer who had built her entire life on self-reliance. She could not lean, could not soften, could not ask for help. She saw her strength as her identity. She believed her self-sufficiency, a shield, was the highest virtue. She rarely admitted fatigue or uncertainty. Her life was an endless, grinding push. The awakening came not in the courtroom, but in a small emergency room cubicle. A minor surgical procedure went wrong, and she was forced into a recovery that required absolute stillness and dependence on others. She could not push, she could not endure. She could only receive aid. In her forced stillness, stripped of her armor of competence, she felt rage, pure, destructive rage at her powerlessness. This rage was the key. It was a projection of her fear of being fragile. Her inner voice whispered, "This helplessness is an indignity." Then one night, she remembered a small fragment of Stoic philosophy she dismissed as sentimental. The body is only a temporary vessel and indifferent. Her proheresis was still free. She realized her strength was not the ability to do everything, but the ability to endure the inability to do everything without surrendering her inner peace. She began to practice the humility of accepting help, finding that her true inner fortress was built not on walls of defiance, but on the foundation of truthful self-assessment. The warrior's greatest battle is learning when to lay down the sword. This is the power of the inner question I promised you earlier, the technique that distinguishes productive struggle from self-inflicted torment. It is this. Is this an effort towards virtue, or is this a defense of a fragile ego? The observer must ask, am I seeking clarity or defending my comfort? The guardian of structure, am I acting prudently or defending my anxiety? The inner king, am I acting with justice or defending my status? The inner child, am I expressing truth or defending my need for attention? The warrior, am I being resilient or defending my fear of vulnerability? The goal is not to eliminate your preferences, your chair choice, but to bring them under the governance of the Stoic virtues. This leads us to the credible transformation that is possible for anyone who commits to the ascesis. Meet Kai. Kai was drawn to Chair 3, the throne of the inner king, and his life was a relentless pursuit of status. He was a good person, but his proheresis was trapped in a golden cage, always trying to impress, always seeking the next promotion to confirm his value. His transformation began when he started using the tools of negative visualization, a core Stoic practice. Instead of constantly imagining success, he forced himself to visualize the loss of everything he valued, his job, his wealth, his reputation. This exercise, which seems morbid, is actually a great purification. He realized that the loss of his title would be painful, but the loss of his integrity would be catastrophic. The truth was shocking. The throne he craved was merely a heavy chair, and indifferent. The moment he truly accepted that all external things are on loan from fortune, he was free. He didn't quit his job. He simply stopped allowing the job to define his worth. He became a better leader, paradoxically, because he was no longer desperate to command. He performed his duties with excellence, his right effort, but he released the need for specific external reward, the wrong outcome. His transformation was not loud. It was the quiet, dignified act of stepping off the throne to sit simply on the ground, still possessing his inner kingship. He moved from seeking validation to practicing virtue. So, what have we uncovered? Your chair choice was not an accident, it was a map. The minimalist refuge, the symmetrical structure, the padded throne, the colorful expression, the resilient fortress, each points to a particular way you are currently using your ruling faculty to address a fundamental psychological hunger. The key lesson is portable and actionable. The only thing necessary for a good life is the correct use of your impressions. This is the core of Stoicism. When a situation arises, pause. Identify the judgment, the voice that says, "This is intolerable," or "I must have this." Do not assent to it. Instead, examine the raw event and choose a response rooted in justice, courage, temperance, or wisdom. The observer must be courageous enough to engage. The guardian of structure must be wise enough to adapt. The inner king must be just enough to serve. The inner child must be temperate enough to channel its passion. The warrior must be wise enough to trust. Your true work is not to change the world or even to change your preferences, but to perfect the disciplined use of your will. You now possess the insight to question your deepest hunger and the mental technique to reroute your focus from external anxiety to internal action. The choice is always, always yours. The ancient philosophers often began with a simple question: how should I live? Our next chapter in this journey must address the most common daily obstacle to virtue, the tyranny of time and the corrosive influence of distraction. Our next conversation will explore Stoic time management and the art of focused attention, detailing how the ancients practiced a disciplined economy of minutes and mental effort to safeguard their most precious, non-renewable resource, their awareness. Until then, use your new inner question well, and remember, what you choose tells a story. And the more deeply you understand that story, the more you can live a life worthy of your own disciplined admiration.